Welcome back, guys. Fahir here from AwesomeTuts.com. And enough about me. Let's talk a little bit about you. How are you doing? Let's talk a little bit. I'm just kidding. We cannot talk like this. I recorded this video maybe a year ago and you're watching it now. It's magic. No, all jokes aside, but now we're going to cover a thing that I don't see too many people covering. I covered that in my previous courses, but I want to cover it even more deeply in this course, and that is classes and objects. I mean, you cannot teach somebody to do anything regarding programming if you don't teach him what this right here is. What is a class? That's the foundation of everything. So let's jump right into it. Going here in our project, I'm gonna go right here into Intro to C#, right click and create a new C# script. I'm gonna call it player, very original, I know. So simply call it player and double click it and open it right here in MonoDevelop. Let me quickly tag the class here with a comment and hold enter just to give a little bit of space so that we can see what I'm typing. Now, first of all, before I start to do anything, I am gonna remove this right here. This what it says mono behavior, remove it. Also remove this colon right here because we don't need it. We will cover it later on, do not worry. So remove that, and we also need to remove this void start and void update because we also don't need the two. At the moment, I'm not gonna explain what this public is, so you can safely ignore it. We will cover it in a couple of videos. But what I want to explain is this right here, class, and this concept right here that I have just highlighted. What is this? So what is a class? If you ever tried to learn how to program, you probably have heard the term, a class is a blueprint for creating objects. What does that mean? Well, it means that we model our objects inside of a class and then we create objects from that class and then we can use that object in our code. In order to declare a class, you type the keyword class, similar as with a variable. So you type the class declaration, so class, C-L-A-S-S, and then you name it. This name right here depends solely on you. And same as with variables, you will give meaningful names. So in this case, we are creating a game and we're gonna have players in our game. So why not give this class name player, which is gonna control all players in our game. And after that, you open curly bracket and you close a curly bracket, and everything that you put in between these curly brackets is the code that you can use when you create an object from this class. Now, what is an object and how can we create it? Well, I'll get to it in a second, but let's first model our class, because we need to give it a little bit attributes, a little bit variables, maybe a function, and then we can create an object in order to use all of those variables that we create. So how do you actually model an object? So you think it like this, you think logically. You have a class named player, which is going to represent your game object or your player in your game. So what is your player going to have in that game? The player is going to have health. We can represent that using a float. So here I can type public float and I can name it health. So health like this, it is equal to 10. For example, this is just a starting point. We can, after this, we can modify it. We can set it to 100 or we can set it default to be 100. What is our player also gonna have? He can have a name because maybe we have a game where you can select multiple characters such as an archer, maybe a wizard or a knight. So we can go here and type public string and then we can type here name and it is equal to, and we need to put that in quotes and we can say wizard, for example. Now, at the moment, we are going to be satisfied with these two, but we can add more such as attack power, so on and so forth. But I don't want to put any more things because this is enough. We can also have one function that is gonna print the info from that player, such as the health of that player, and it can print the name of that player. So we can create here a public void, so public void, and I am gonna call this function player info. And inside of it, we are simply gonna use the print statement, and we are gonna print the name of our player. And let me just take a look at here. It's pointing to an error. It's giving us an error. The name print does not exist in the current content, so we can use debug.log. Probably has something to do that I have deleted mono behavior here, but we can use debug.log. Or actually, no, excuse me, I've used print like this, and let me just type here. No, we cannot. Anyways, we can use debug.log, I think. So debug.log, and here I can use something, or we can put something here in order to print it. Let me just double check it here to see if everything is okay. Yeah, I think apparently removing mono develop here, or mono behavior lost our print. For some reason, I'm not sure why. Anyways, here we are with our debug.log, which is gonna function the same way as our print, and we can use it to print the name of our player and the health of our player. So we can say player name is colon, and I can say here plus, and I can type the name, and I can say plus again to concatenate a string. Now this is called, all of this is string concatenation, and we talked about it. And player's health is like this, and I can say plus health. So this is that modeling part that I said. So we have modeled a class. We have given the attributes, and these are the attributes, and these are the properties, excuse me, and this is the attributes. So the properties are the variables, the attributes are the functions. So we gave health and name to our player class, which is going to represent that in our game, and also player info. Just imagine this like when you come over near a player in an RPG game and then his info pops up. I don't know, Megalion from the wizard land of Nihawk, I don't know, and my health is so on and so forth. So how we can use this, and let me just move the tab for the class. How can we use all of this that we have just created and create an object from this class? Well, in order to create an object, that's something similar like we did with our array. So we type the name of this class, so we type player, because we have created it. We can now access it here, so we can type player, and I can say wizard. So player wizard is equal to new player, open, not playing, but player, open, close, parentheses. And this is what we did with our arrays. So what does this mean? Well, first we declared the type of the variable that we need. And the type of the variable is the class, because when we model a class, it becomes a variable type, or it becomes that class type. So we can reuse it here in our scripts. And we are typing the type, which is player, and then we are giving it a name, same way as with our other variables, and now we're giving it a value. So it is equal to what? It is equal to new player. And this right here is called a constructor, and later on we will talk about constructors also. So it is equal to new, this keyword new, same way as with our arrays, and I told you don't worry about it because we will cover it. So this keyword new is used in order for us to create a new object. When we have created an array, so when we typed int array like this, data is equal to new int array of 10 elements, we are actually creating an object here. So we're typing new, and we are creating an array of 10 integers, which is an object. So this right here is also an object, same way as this one right here. And this is that scary concept, that concept behind the concept of object-oriented programming. Thank you, Tong, for pronouncing things correctly. So this is that whole concept. When you say a class, this is a class, you model it here, and then you simply create an object from it like this. Now, how can we reuse all of these variables now? Well, we have created an object right here, and we can use this variable, and we can say dot, and then we can access all the properties. So we can say wizard dot, and now notice we can access the health, we can access the name, and we can access player info. If I simply type here player info in order to call this function right here, and if I run our tester app, so let me go back in Unity, and when I hit run here, we are gonna see the player name is wizard and the player health is 100, because this is the default one that we have set right here. One thing that I want to show you is that we can now modify these variables as I already told you, so that this is the default variable. But if we don't want 100, maybe we want 50, and we don't want the name wizard for our player, then we can go here. We can first type, this is the default value, and we can type it. But let's say we want the name of our player to be wizard. Well, that's easy. We can say wizard.name, and we are saying dot to access the property, and the property is name, and which is this one right here. This is that name property. So this is it. If we delete this here, then we cannot type here name because it does not exist. And now we can set it, instead of wizard, we can say knight, like this. So we can say knight. And I can also say wizard.health is equal to 44F instead of 100F, which we did here as defaults. Notice what is gonna happen when I go here and call the wizard player info again. So when I call the wizard player info, notice what's gonna happen. But first we are gonna print the default one, then we are gonna change it and print it again. So going back here, let me just clear this from the console, hit the run button. Notice the first one. Player name is wizard and player's health is 100. The second one is telling us player name is knight and player's health is 44. So 44, this is what it means that we can now change these variables using this object. This object is actually a variable from that class, which allows us to manipulate everything that we have declared inside of this class, such as these variables, such as this function. We can call this function. If we declare other functions, we can call them too, and they will execute the same way as this one has executed. Now, going back to our concept that is called, you can create multiple objects from a single class. And I did not say it like this exactly, but I said that a class is a blueprint for creating objects. Now, I said it as plural, not singular, because we can create more objects from that single class. Notice here we have created the player wizard, and we can go here, we can type wizard.playerinfo, and then we can print that. But I can also come here and I can say player, and I can say knight is equal to new player, not playing again, player. This is from one movie, I think you know which one it is. But anyways, so player knight is equal to new player, but still the default values for the health and the name are wizard and 100, so we need to change them here. We can say knight.name is equal to knight, and knight.health is equal to 64F. And we can go here, we can call knight.playerinfo. We can do this again. We can say player, and I can say now archer is equal to new player. Again, it's giving us plain, but no, we don't want it. And I can say archer.name is equal to archer now, instead of the default one, which is wizard. And I can say archer.health is equal to, I don't know, 69, and I can call the archer.playerinfo. Now this can go on and on. You can create 3,000 of these objects, 4,000 of these objects. And notice what is gonna happen when I go here and when I hit the run button. So the first one, player name is wizard and player's health is 100. The second one, player name is knight and player's health is 64. For the third one, the player name is archer and player's health is 69. So this is what it means that we model a concept, we create a blueprint from this class, and then we can use this class to create multiple objects. So we can create multiple objects. And also what I want to talk about is what is happening behind the scenes of right here that we are creating a player. And for that, I'm going to use my highlight tool. So highlight, and here it is. And it has a red spot so it can be visible. So what is happening? So here we're creating player 1, so I'm going to name it P1, and we are also creating P2, and we are creating P3. So all of these, player 1, player 2, and player 3. So the one is wizard, knight, and archer. So we are creating, and we are using one class called player, which we saw a moment ago and we have created it. So we're using that single class in order to create these objects. What is happening behind the scene is that those objects have their place in memory, and these variables, this wizard right here, this wizard variable, this knight variable, and this archer variable, they are pointers. So they are pointers to those in memory. So they are pointing to the memory spot, which is reserved for this object. So let's say this is memory here. So I'm going to say here memory, like this memory spot in our computer, of course. And this is reserved. So this one right here is reserved for our player one, because when we type this new player, so when we type this right here, new player, we are actually reserving this spot here in memory. And I'm also going to take this one right here. And this is going to be player 2, and this one right here. And this is going to be player 3. And let me just type 3 correctly. Yeah, you can say it's 3. So these are those 3 spots in memory. So all of this wizard, he is pointing to this spot. Knight is pointing to this spot, and knight or archer is pointing to this spot right here. And this is player 1, this is player 2, and this is player 3. This is what is happening behind the scenes. So when we create an object, we are actually reserving that spot in memory, and these variables are pointers to that spot in memory which holds our objects. This is important later on for some concepts that you will encounter in programming, so this is important to understand. So again, we are simply creating these new objects, typing player, which is the name of the class, typing the name is equal to new player, which will create a spot in memory for that object. And these variables, when I say variables, I mean in this case wizard, and below it knight, and below it archer. Even though they are objects created from classes, they are variables, such as integers, such as booleans, such as floats, and they have their own spot in memory, so don't worry about that. But this is for these variables, for objects. So these variables are actually pointers to this memory spot, which is in our computer, and then we can, well, manipulate their attributes. We can change the health, we can change the name by using this object pointer. So this is what is going on behind the scenes. Now, you're probably wondering, why is this important and why did I mention it? Well, let's take an example. So I'm going to remove this player knight info, and I'm going to remove the wizard also. We don't need him. So here we have player knight. The name is knight, and the name is, or the health is 64. And here we have the archer. If I do this, if I say here knight dot player info, and if I do the same thing for the archer, so if I go here and type archer player info, nothing special. We will see everything here printed in the console. So when I go and run it here, we see the name is knight and health is 64 and name is archer and player's health is 69. Now, what will happen if I do this? So if I go and do this, archer is now equal to knight. So our player archer here is now equal to our knight player right here. What do you think is gonna happen when we use player info? So let's go here and see it. So when I run our app, now notice player name is knight and player's health is 64. Player name is knight and player's health is 64 for both of these. And we are printing this from the archer, and we are also printing that from the knight. So what is going on here? As I said, these are pointers to those references. And let me just quickly grab the highlight tool again. So we have here player 1, which is knight, and we have here player 2, which is archer, and these are their references. So right here is P1 and right here is P2. So they are pointing to these references. But now that we did this right here, so now when we typed archer is equal to knight, that means that P2, which is archer, he is now pointing to this same variable right here. So he is pointing to this same variable, and this reference or the reference to this variable is now lost, and it will be garbage collected by the compiler, so don't worry about that. We don't need to worry about it. But the point is that this variable is now pointing to one of the same reference in the memory. So player 1, which is knight, and player 2, which is archer, they are both pointing to this reference right here, which is originally created by using player knight is equal to new player. And again, why is this important? Well, notice now right here what is happening. So they are printing the same value as you have here for the knight. If I do this, if I go here and say knight.name is equal to, we have changed the knight's name, and I'm gonna leave it like this, and knight.health is equal to, let's say, 144.3F. What do you think is gonna happen when I do this right here? And I'm just gonna use a print statement like this, just so that I separate these from one another. And let me just put here, I don't think that we need to put quotes. Let me just go and take a look at, yeah, we do need to. We need to put something here just so that I separate them. So what do you think is gonna be printed right here? Let's take a look. I'm gonna clear everything in the console and I'm gonna run it. Notice what is going on here in the console. The name or player name is knight, and health is 64. Same here. Now we are separating them with our print statement. Notice what is going on here. We have changed the knight's name and player's health. And also we have changed the knight's name and player's health is 144.3. Do you see my point here? My point is that since now the archer is pointing to the knight, or that same reference in memory, we have changed the values from the knight, but the archer is also changed along with that. So this is that point with this. So we have here P1, which is pointing here, and we have P2, which is now pointing here. And even if we change now the archer, so let me just try that. So going back here, and using the same print statement here to separate them, and let me just put it here. If I go and type archer dot name is now equal to wizard, so I'm gonna put it at wizard, and archer dot health is equal to 0f, not f0 but 0f. And when we now print everything together, so I'm gonna print everything together, going back here in Unity, clearing the console, running it. Notice what is going on. Again, the same reference. They are pointing to that one single reference in memory. So when you change one, you have changed the second one. So you see my point now. You can take a look at here. Player name is wizard and player health is 0. Both printed for the knight and the archer. So this is my point of that pointer or the reference. So when you set the archer to be equal to knight, you're actually setting the archer variable to point to that same reference in memory where the knight variable is pointing. When you change one, the other will also change along with it, and vice versa. So this is an important concept to know so that you don't get lost later in object-oriented programming. And this is something that I did not see anybody cover. And this is really important for your later on game development, especially when we are passing objects to functions, because same way as with integers, strings, so on and so forth, we can pass objects to functions as parameters and also we can return objects from the function. And it's important to know these things, that when we type that archer is equal to knight, we are not simply copying the values of knight and putting that to archer. No. Now archer is also pointing to the same reference or to the same memory spot as the variable knight. So when we change the knight variable, the archer will also change and vice versa, which we just saw a moment ago. Now, this is it for this video. It is getting a little bit long, but this is really super important for you to know. And yeah, that's that for this video. Fahir here from AwesomeTuts.com, and I will catch you in the next video.